Hello, everybody. My name is Jennifer Olshauser, and we are doing a special training today with booking flights with Ben. Ben Selly has been an agent here about 3 years now, and trust me, you will learn a lot through this guy. He is knows his flights like ins and outs. Okay, so have a notebook, take some notes, and Ben, you ready?
I suppose I'm ready. If everyone can hear me, hi and hello. Good afternoon from sunny Los Angeles. Woohoo! Um, Today, if you guys can see the screen that's up, timing is everything. Best day to fly, best day to book. I was initially going to have a little fun training on how to actually book through different portals, whether it's on Central, Downtown Travel, Expedia Tap. However, in light of what I started seeing and hearing about a lot of questions on, it was about when to book, when should we look at flights, how to forecast that. So I think we can always lead into another training or something if you want to even call it a training, but that will be the best way to go about doing this. But again, I am Ben Selly, and no, have I ever worked for an airline? No, have I ever worked at an airport? No, have I ever? I just happen to be a geek for this stuff. So if you don't know who I am, aside from other things, I love airplanes. I love flying. I love commercial flying, not like you know military aircraft. That's kind of boring to me. It's about sitting on a plane as a passenger myself and having done it to so many places in the world. I just started really getting into this, and so for me, what I share with you is from my constant updates and knowledge of what I find on the internet based on. I mean, I don't even want to tell you guys how many YouTube channels I'm attached to daily that I watch airplanes. That's it. Airplanes live from airports. That's how incredibly invested I am. But I love to share the knowledge, what I have now with regards to the travel agency bit, because I know that just booking flights alone is a lot, even though it's pretty simple. Most of us can do it on our own without even being a travel agent. But in this day and age, it is important to understand just how things are, especially post pandemic, because as exciting as I do find it, and as boring as most people find it, it is necessary because the component of flying or booking travel with flights is usually a part of everyone's day-to-day operations when it comes to booking, being a travel agent. So what you see in front of you is just a breakdown, a 5-page document that I put together just to kind of bring about a synopsis as to what is kind of crucial right now and the forecast for 2025. And by the way, one lucky winner will get a $27 either gift card or just me Venmoing you. And the reason I say that is because $27 is approximate, well, $9 for a 10-piece chicken nugget meal. I times it by three because that's how much I would eat. Let's hypothetically say so. So that being said, 27-ish dollars, maybe I'll round it to 30 if I'm feeling nice. And there are two runner-ups. And though these runner-up prizes are not confirmed at this time, and I won't put this person on blast, but should they be doing it again this year, I will take care of your shipping costs for holiday cookies. Again, it has not yet been confirmed. I'm not going to throw it out there or put that person on blast, but I might even expedite that cost. So,
I'm okay with it.
okay, well, thank you for ruining the surprise, Paula. So it is Paula. She likes to make cookies. They're not bad. I've done it 2 years in a row. Usually somehow I get them sooner than others. However, just to help out with cost, I will take care of that for at least two of you, if she's okay with it. All right, moving on. Let's learn something about booking flights and when to book them. All right, by the numbers, and really what you see on the first screen here, it's simple as this. There are over 19,000 airports in the US alone. Not that all of them are served by commercial aircraft. In fact, there's only about 389, 390, depending on where you look specifically, that actually have commercial flights with a US airline, whether it's a discount carrier or a mainline legacy carrier. That being said, you know, there are 483 of those, which is more than the commercial ones that are actually listed as international airports. And what that means simply is whether or not they're actually taking commercial jet craft airliners, they actually have the capacity and in the ability to have, even for private jets, document anyone coming in internationally as far as doing the process as you would at a normal international airport. So there are more international airports technically than commercial aircraft airports. So whether or not that's a fun factoid, it's something for you to keep in mind because when people say international airport, sometimes if they're flying in a private jet, it might not be something that you would normally think about booking with or booking to. So moving on to the second. Well, is there any questions so far? Because I want you guys in real time as we're going through this. I'm going to be spouting up a lot of blah information, but it is kind of important. But I do want you to in real time ask away. So Jen, if she's going to be looking at the chat, I can multitask, but I can't do that because otherwise I'll be cross-eyed and then we'll be talking about food faster than you know it. So before that happens,
As of right now, we don't have any questions.
boo on you guys. Way to be supportive. Let's see. We have, well, it is important also to notice that we do have about 45,000 annual daily flights going across the US with a bunch of those, you know, at least I'd say about half being international. So when you're booking, it is kind of, you're wondering, is there a lot of things going on, a lot of flights? Yes, there are. Even if you don't live by an airport, just look in the sky. Okay, maybe not just look in the sky, but you get my point. There are a lot of flights, always and constantly going around the clock. But when to fly is constantly the big question that I think a lot of people, no matter what, people have plans, whether it's for a vacation, whether it's holiday or last minute travel or business trips, you always want to plan ahead. But when it comes to when to fly, if that is open to you and your clients, consider that Tuesdays and Wednesdays are generally the best day of the week, mainly because, well, traditionally speaking, Tuesdays are the best day for the sake of when airlines tend to usually update their inventory and prices. And that usually actually happens late Monday night, early Tuesday morning. So they say the best day to fly is when you find the best fare, which is Tuesday morning, early Tuesday mornings, late Monday night. It kind of varies, but those are the days to kind of focus on if you want to find the best deals. And again, not again, but this does kind of doesn't matter. Um, is somebody on? Have a question?
You're good. I muted him.
Okay. Where was I? Oh yes, Tuesdays. They are also the best day of the week for international bookings and best day to fly. When it comes to it, and sorry to confuse you, I don't want to make it too confusing, but there is a difference of when to fly and when to book. So this is the when to fly. If you can encourage your customers or clients, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays are ideal because anywhere towards the weekend, especially Friday and Sunday, well, you're going to be looking at higher prices, bigger demand, and less availability. Um, Historically, though, the time of year or the month so that are best to travel or fly based on prices is generally September and October. And though that does change a little bit here and there, pretty much because it is shoulder season, basically after the summer rush, that's when you can kind of consider when it is to best, if your clients are open, say, hey, if you're open to it and you have this period of window, why not go after the summer rush? Because obviously, summer is insanely expensive and actually is the most expensive time to travel, especially the first week of July, more so than Christmas and New Year's combined. Um, that does kind of change up if there is a national disaster, weather, holiday, or something else politically or war going on. But keeping in mind that as much as you do want to plan ahead, if people are open, the best thing for you to do is offer this information to your client because the more, and especially when you're qualifying them, the more you're able to give the insight and the schematics of what the industry kind of focuses around, you will be in a better position moving forward, but also gain that knowledge and trust from your client because they'll feel more comfortable that you actually know what you're talking about. And though they probably already knew it, it just is more confidence in them to hear you say it as a travel agent. Because not to say that everyone here needs to know as much about airlines or commercial aircraft and so forth like I do, the very minimum, at least do your part. And that's what this is hopefully going to help you with. Um, so far, anything there that needs clarification on, please let me know, as I'm avoiding looking at the other chat box because otherwise I'll totally lose my mind. Um, December and January, and just to go back to the holiday stuff, even though you want to plan ahead, it is kind of something that you just, whether you want to do it or not, plan as much as you can because starting the end of November is when not only prices go up, but that's when most people start taking off for holiday travel, whether it's international or domestic. There is really no wiggle room there. There are some blackout dates, but most times that's also when the airlines stop or have blackout dates, especially for using mileage redemption with their partnerships and or have restrictions in regards to promotions. So no matter what, those are the two real big times to keep an eye on it if you can avoid those. And of course, it depends on the country and the destination as far as what's going on there. For example, in Japan, springtime, which a lot of people think, hey, once it's on spring break, it's a good time to go. Well, over there, it's insane. And especially this year with the Osaka World Expo kicking off in April, well, April today, at the end of this month, for at least 8 months, it means the numbers in Japan are going to be even higher. So knowing your destination is key. And so you have to have that sense of knowing where they're going and seeing what you can avoid as far as craziness, crowds, crowded airports, and so forth, especially if your clients are either older or traveling with children. All right. Well, we now have discussed when to fly, but when to book is just as important, obviously, because they say the further the distance you plan to travel, the further out you should plan on the booking part. Now, unfortunately, it is so complex, especially in this day and age since the pandemic, because what algorithms and strategic analytics have shown in the past, there was this okay, this far out is best for international, this far out is best for domestic. Having a clear understanding of where and when with your clients and paired it with how you research plus the alerts that you set can make a huge difference in regards to cost. And speaking of cost, it's important to understand what dynamic pricing is. Dynamic pricing is how airlines price out their tickets. It's just like how hotels do it, which is basically they are constantly changing based on availability, demand, and airline specific promotions. There are some other factors that can include here, but dynamic pricing is all about what is available one moment might not be available next. So if you see something and you say to your client, hey, found a spare for this and this, if they're not willing to book that kind of right then and there, you better expect some sort of deviant, whether it's up or down, but most likely up the closer you get to your destination or time of travel. But though, again, depends on the destination and, what class of service and all that fun stuff. Because as I'm pointing out here on the right side of the screen, the most popular domestic routes in the US as of 2025 currently are Denver to Phoenix.
Recording in progress.
Thank you. Thank you. Was that a glitch?
There's a glitch. Yep, go ahead.
Repeat. Las Vegas to Los Angeles, with the biggest domestic route being between Los Angeles and San Francisco. I mean, honestly, as one who lives in LA, I'm like, why are you? Okay, I guess a lot of people commute that route. The most flights or direct flights, which is different than, by the way, nonstop. Does anyone know what the difference is between direct and nonstop? Yes, that would be great, Jen. Well, just to point out, a a direct flight can be the same as a nonstop. However, a nonstop is not a direct flight because a direct flight simply means there could be possibly a stop. Usually you don't change a plane, but at least it maintains the same flight number. But on some routes, if it says direct, make sure you're looking at all the little details, because a nonstop is what you're looking for if you indeed want to get from point A to point B without any stops. Of course, unless there's a something on board, God forbid, or someone gets sick and needs to stop. But otherwise, it's not scheduled as, being having a stop. So that's what's important here. So direct flights out of Chicago, which is the busiest U.S. airport in the sense of most direct flights, they offer 938 ones to 170 U.S. cities, and I think just over 110 on the international side. There are a lot of other airports that have comparable. Atlanta still is busier technically, but they're just more frequency, and because it is a huge Delta Airlines hub. Um, but just keep in mind, as most of you already know, flights are constantly changing, and it depends on the time of day, the time of the week, the month, your mood. I don't know. But both demand and prices are increasing the closer you get to the actual travel date. And especially with the holidays in mind, that kind of throws it all out the window. You just have to be actively paying attention and actually know what those routes are. I hate to say it, but I kind of also, on top of looking at planes takeoff and landing, follow the trends with regards to flight prices. Because for me, not only have I traveled a lot, but it is important when you're looking at a client or having a client ask you what's the best price or what you think is going to be the best price for this on average. And not to say that you should know all the points, but you should kind of have an idea of, especially in the US, what are the busiest domestic, point to points, and what are those costs? Because for those of you, especially in smaller cities, most likely to get to a bigger city, you're gonna have to connect somewhere. And that involves obviously more time, but not necessarily more price. It just depends on how you want to fly, the airlines of choice, and of course, your client's distance to said airport. But again, a lot of these factors we already know, but it's important for everyone to keep in mind that a lot of this we just think, oh, we just put in those airport cities, whatever, and that's it. Well, if you really want to find the best deals, you might want to have some flexibility with that. And that's what you should kind of install with your clients when you start talking with them about just flights. Because a lot of times they might realize just how much cheaper it is just to drive 50 miles further. And I think most of you can attest to this as far as where you're located right now. How easy is it to get to a big city? I don't envy some of you. And I won't say names, but for those of you who have been discussing that point for a hot minute here, it's clear that maybe you should move. Anywho, moving on. All right, so when it comes to when it is time to book, domestically, it is advised that if you want to give the best window, 2 to 3 months out for domestic. That is such a big if and when, because also with regard to the route that you're looking at, a mainline carrier like Delta or American or United might be way more expensive than if a discount carrier like Allegiant or Southwest actually carries the same route. And a lot of them are a lot of times put on the same platform. So you have to do your research. But keeping in mind, the window for domestic is 2 to 3. And they say that the best day to book overall for domestic is Tuesdays and Wednesdays, though some might say Sundays. Like I said earlier, they do update most of the airlines, their flights and schedule and inventory late Monday, early Tuesday morning. So if you really want to catch a good deal and really want to look for a fare specific, set your alarms, because crack of dawn on Tuesday, you should start looking, because those things will go fast. And it's not just you looking, it's not just other agents, it's also airlines are taking those seats away based on availability, because they know, especially with their premium class having passengers and loyalty members, those will go the quickest. So see it and get it if that's what you're looking for. As for the international sector, it is about 2 to 8 months. As far as 2025 goes, actually, this year started off with being a weird window between 28 to 31 days at the very beginning of January. And then it kind of started to shift at the end. But now we're back up to the, I'd say, 3 to 6 month window. It also depends here if you're looking for main cabin or the cheapest, or if you're looking at something more of a premium cabin like business. Oddly enough, if you're looking for a last minute business class fare, you're probably going to find a better deal waiting within that month prior to departure, as long as it's not a holiday, to find a deal with regard to what's available in business or first class on an international route. Not always the case, but considering what's out there and how things are constantly changing, it is imperative that you, again, do your research here because there are so many things that affect all these. And with right now, it will likely change again, especially once we get after the summer rush. Again, first week of July is the busiest and most expensive time. As you get towards August and end of August, that is when you actually see cheaper, more availability. And in fact, they say that the best and cheapest day to travel is actually August 23rd or something like that. So that week of what August 23rd falls in, or something around the 18th, that little week window is going to find historically the cheapest flights. So if you're willing to wait and or have someone travel on those days, not only for just booking, but also for, just the least planning ahead, those are what you're going to see right now. That week in August, which is again 18th-ish, but with the 23rd being the pinpoint day as far as the cheapest day historically. I know we already said this, as far as Tuesdays being the best day to book and Wednesdays as well, but even sites like when we have with our partnership with Expedia Tap, Expedia does still tout that Sundays is better for them, but it also depends on what they have on inventory. Because for them, they might be just pushing some kind of promotion, which they do a lot of, and hence why certain sites like Expedia can be in your best interest to look at if you are trying to find something specific earlier than the rest of the week. Meaning, though Tuesday might be the best day, keep in mind that Sunday is your best, maybe a second best option, because though there's a lot of you guys hear that? Sorry. There's a lot of misconceptions as to booking late at night is a better time or early in the morning. There really is no rhyme or reason to that, especially like everything I've already mentioned, because if it's going to be late at night, then do it late Monday night or early morning Tuesday. Otherwise, don't worry about it, because if you're not up at the crack of dawn and or constantly looking at flights, well, then you're not going to see what someone else saw, but now is no longer available. Okay, on this last page here, the fair play, which I'm just going to point out, are some things to consider when looking at a fare and how to navigate ways to potentially be in the best interest of your client as far as price, as well as for you for less headache. That being said, one of them is setting a price alert. If you are traveling or having to book travel for a client who doesn't need to have necessarily their flights so soon, and you can tell that they're going to take some time to make a decision on anything, including what their middle name is for whatever reason, just because they can't read their passport like a human being, then consider putting a price alert, because sites like Kayak, Skyscanner, Priceline, and Expedia are really good at having some of the best, algorithms when it comes to forecasting what prices are going to go up and when they're going to go down. And even after the days of when you are looking to consider an option, if you have some openness or the client is willing to be open, I wouldn't say wait to the last minute, but this is more so if you are months out from travel, whether it's international or domestic, instead of saying a price alert. A lot of times we do that and sometimes forget about it. But if you are really looking to save some money, whether it's for your client or yourself, consider the price alert. It's not that hard. It's easy to do, and you can pretty much do it on any platform these days. That's I assume. We already know about bundles because something like Bax, the pair hotel, car, flight, Expedia Tap, and a host of others. But keeping in mind that if it's just flight, but you know that they're probably going to need a hotel somewhere, why not consider doing that? Because even on Expedia or these other ones, you can make sure that it's just like even one night, and that alone will bring down the price anywhere from $240 to over $600 per person, depending on when and where. But if you keep that in the back of your mind as far as, okay, well, they wanted to get flights here, but they're still going to need a hotel, or they might not be needing a hotel, consider that as an option because it might bring your overall cost down. And then you're opening your mind to your customer who's going to be like, wow, that was a great idea. And I didn't want to stay at my aunt's house anyway. There you go. You're a winner, though you might miss out on the chicken dinner. Um, Alternative airports, like I'd already mentioned earlier, like big cities, Chicago, well, they only have two, but New York and LA or any other cities have airports around them. We all know how to get to them, but it's a matter of keeping that in mind when booking because a flight here traditionally might be this price, but then you go over here a little bit and are willing to travel there. Who knew? I mean, some people are willing to travel 2, 3 hours just to get to a better flight rate. So, and this is not just for domestic, it's also international. London alone has about 5, 6 airports. You can fly internationally into there, into City Airport if you're in mainland Europe, or London Gatwick or London Heathrow, which, by the way, London airports are the most expensive in the world. And I don't say that in a way of because of just demand, it's their taxes when it comes to the airport costs. And so no matter where you fly into, whether it's even a layover, it's averages about $250 to $300 more than going through, for example, Paris or Amsterdam. So if you can avoid London because you don't have to go there, not to say don't visit London, you might save a lot of money if you consider going through another city other than London. So um, one big tip for those who are looking to book domestic travel, when you're pricing out a round trip, if you indeed are going a round trip, consider looking at two one-ways because especially if the city has multiple airports, flying into one airport and out of the other might save you a ton of money. And I know some people can attest to this. Plus, if you're using airline credit vouchers or using your mileage to compensate for one of those fares, a round trip will require usually more. And in this way, what minimum you do have is good for at least a one way. Consider that because then the cost overall then goes down for your client. Not to say that we want your clients to be using and booking travel because they do with their airline credit and or their mileage or whatever. But tell them, especially knowing if they have loyalty to an airline, what you're saving them as far as cost, but also too what they're going to be saving in the points that they can accrue for even better travel in the future. There are a lot of factors there when you're trying to book travel. Having the idea that two one ways might work over a round trip on cost is ideal for domestic again, but it can be also done for international. And that's what I was going to do with the training today. It was to actually showcase some of these things, especially for international, because when you do international, those are usually higher. But there are ways to mitigate those costs by utilizing point to point, especially if it's a multi-city stop, places like Europe or Asia. Consider using a major hub to a major hub as a round trip point, and then do individual one ways in that region if they need to travel elsewhere. There's so much that I can go into there alone, and depending on the region of the world, because I am a geek for the international sector when it comes to flights. But for you, at least keep that in mind because there are ways to navigate and not get frustrated from the only thing you see, regardless if it's on Central, Expedia tab, or even the airline's website directly. Um, Overall, Freaky Fridays, yes, it is for both domestic and international flying, likely the most expensive, but also biggest headache for anyone traveling. Um, and this goes for inbound or outbound. Inbound tends to be more annoying on Sundays when people are coming back from said vacation and or traveling out for that work week if they be doing business travel. There's a lot there going on that really kind of depends on where you are, but also to the demand of how the frequency is as far as flights go from that city your client is nearby to wherever they want to go ultimately. And again, the whole two one ways might very well work in their favor, especially if they have to go to a nearby city. They might as well just rent a car and drive. And that cost alone could definitely be in their best interest as well. I did miss a point, and I'm seeing it now. Layovers and stopovers. There is a difference, believe it or not. The layover tends to be a much shorter stop, a few hours usually, whether it's international or domestic, whereas a stopover generally includes an overnight. And the reason that this falls into the fair play as far as pricing goes, it is worth looking. When you see if a client is hell bent on saving money, consider this as an option because when you factor in a hotel stay at the airport, usually that cost might overall hotel plus that flight, whether it's round trip or one way nonstop, one way direct, could very well work in your favor, especially on the international segment. Because if people are willing to save more money and don't mind a longer layover or stopover, in this case, a stopover that would require a night, hotels at the airports generally are a lot cheaper by at least 30 to 40%, depending on the city. Internationally, it actually goes down to about 40 to 50%, and that depends on the region of the world. Keeping in mind that obviously, smaller the airport is as far as the international destination or wherever the layover is, and they might not have a lot of options, but at least you can give that and say that you did your job to see how you could best cost effectively help your client, put them at ease, be done with it. And obviously, if it is an airport hotel, the good chance that either they're connected to the airport directly and or have a shuttle service that doesn't incur further costs. So they don't have to rent a car unless they plan to stay there and then visit part of the city, which, by the way, a lot of airlines do. For example, Turkish Airlines for Istanbul, Qatar out of Doha, Seoul even in South Korea. If they have a layover with one of their airlines, they encourage us in their national tourism boards to offer free day tours for a couple hours in that city or region before going back to the airport to carry on your layover. So it's kind of a fun way to see things and or without even costing you more, taking advantage of promotions from a country's tourism to encourage your customer to at least see a place while you're there, see it, even if it's for a few hours. Why not? Especially if it's free, especially if sometimes, in some cases, offer a free hotel for that. And I believe there was a promotion last year, even with Turkish, they had an offer up for 4 nights on them. If you had a layover in Istanbul flying through with them on Turkish, you could see the city for 4 days, stay at a hotel for 4 days on them, and they would give you a tour each day of a different part of the city. It's kind of a cool way to break up your trip and make your trip longer without having to spend more. So keeping that in mind, it's something to look into, especially on the international segment. Might as well look into the layover and stopover option. Okay, I think for the most part, holy crap. Oh, sorry, it's being recorded.
That's okay. Yeah, we do have a couple questions. Um,
140.
One, do all airlines allow reduced pricing if you're watching the prices after buying?
Well, when you are looking at prices online, most of you are probably looking at a third party, such as like Skyscanner, Kayak, Priceline, Expedia, you name it. Those are because those sites, those companies have direct either contracts or agreements with the airlines that they're advertising or showing, meaning that yes and no is the answer to your question. Because yes, the airlines try to inform as much as they can, which, by the way, is obviously going to be more so seen on their actual website as opposed to the third parties. However, the prices that are offered on the third party sites won't always have what is the latest. And that's why there's a big talk about this whole NDC fare versus published fare and blah, blah, blah. NDC fare, again, meaning new distribution channel, which is simply that what you see on an airline's website is all the price options, whether it's a promotion, whether it's a discount, whether it's a special thing for just kids or for parents. That is what they want you to see with an NDC fare that is advertised in such places like Centrav, Expedia. Those flights don't necessarily mean a bad thing, but it's just trying to disclose more information to you. That's not always the case. So if it is an NDC fare, that usually has the most information with regards to what would also be shown on the airline's website for that price. It's a little confusing, I know, but To answer it again, not all the time, but yes to most of it. And it also depends if you're looking at it on certain days of the week. Again, Tuesday morning is when they tend to update that stuff. And that's also when part websites like Expedia and all these others are doing that as well because they know it's going to go fast. And so if the airlines can't sell it, they're going to put it out there and also inform these third party sites what is the availability, what has changed literally in the last couple hours. Because sometimes, in the case of group travel, if suddenly a group of like 50 people suddenly pulls out of a flight, you can better believe there's a lot of seats opening up in various classes and different price ranges that weren't available just hours ago. But you never know what's going to happen. But that's when that kind of information gets updated. Does that make sense? No one can. I can't hear anybody, but I do
Yes,
think
I think it made sense. Another question is clients tend to believe that fares could potentially go down as they get closer to the date. Do fares tend to go up or down as you get closer to the date?
depends on the class of service and where you're going. Again, where and when is your important thing to consider because yes, if you look at history, the closer you get, the fares go down because why? There's open seats still available and now they still have to sell them. However, in the last couple of years, especially since the pandemic, with regard to all the craziness in our world, plus airline shortages for both Boeing and Airbus, issues with regards to manufacturing, parts, fuel costs, that has changed significantly because no matter what, there is usually the case now that there's not enough seats. So when there are too many seats, it's usually because it's either an oversaturated route. In the case, for example, New York to LA, there's 27 nonstops a day between just LAX and JFK. And that's on 6 different airlines. 26, that's a lot. So reason that you see flights sometimes as low as $80 one way, whereas going round trip or one way to somewhere like from LA to, I don't know, Seattle is double that, if not triple. It's because there's still more frequency, more planes in the air, not necessarily bigger planes, but sometimes bigger planes, that it becomes oversaturated. So the closer you get to the travel date, here's what I would say. If you're doing last minute travel, for example, because you can't really plan out that, obviously, whether it's tomorrow or next week, obviously you're going to probably go for whatever is cheapest. But whatever is cheapest is also based on what is available. What is available could change tomorrow, though, if you're not traveling tomorrow. So in real time, if you're flying one in cheapest or willing to fly in the cheapest in the middle seat, next to the bathroom, on God knows how many screaming babies next to you, knock yourself out, you will probably find something that you like if indeed that plane is not full. However, if you are looking to hopefully get a last minute premium cabin, that could go either way. I would say on the domestic route, it will probably be available cheaper for first or business class. On an international, it will probably be a little more expensive than what would be published out for 3 months because the international is where people want to, well, the airlines want to make the most money. Most airlines make their money from their premium cabin alone, whether it's domestic or international. They don't really care about coach or basic economy. That's where they lose all their money. It's really those 20, 30 seats up in front that are the real deal breakers as to the success of an airline and their financial status. So when it comes to the international point, everyone wants to sit up there. So people are willing to pay premium for more comfortable, for a longer flight while being indulged with free all this and that, lounge access, you name it, but also to get away from the riffraff back there that's pushed together like sardines, which I know sucks, but everyone has to do it. I don't like it. I don't try to do it, but it happens. And so no matter what, you can find it lower, but it's best if you're only looking for one. If you're looking for more than two, good luck. You have a better chance of winning the Powerball in Madagascar tomorrow. Because at that point, it's like you might be partially on the same flight or one over here, one over there, but it is better if you're doing it for just one person.
Awesome. Another one is there any truth to any of these airline sites that you are checking flights is tracking the traffic of checking certain flights and change pricing based on the number of inquiries and adjusting pricing accordingly. Does that make sense?
No, did it make sense to you?
Yeah. Yes, after I read it out loud. So
Okay.
basically, I think what she's asking, Sharon, if I'm wrong, interrupt me,
Mhm.
is so if somebody goes in and does a search, does like on American Airlines and somebody's searching, these flights, does American Airlines see that and are the prices going to adjust? Like, oh, so many people are searching for this flight, we need to raise the price. Is that what you're asking, Sharon?
The algorithms and so forth?
Yeah.
Yes. Um, it's not so much as the airline specifically are checking them, because any airline which is listed as a carrier, especially in the US, whether through IATA or any established travel organization, will actually kind of in this weird umbrella of everyone is just sharing the information, because if you go to an airport's computer system, obviously you have the counter for United, this airline, and that. But you remember, if their airlines are oversold, they will go to another airline and try to get them on, in certain cases. It's because they're all connected to know what inventory is available, because in real time at airports, they are actually showing what is actually happening. Are people showing up to the flights? Has this been canceled, delayed, all that stuff? So in real time, they all have to kind of share that information. So the airlines are paying attention to it, but it's basically because whatever they're showing on their algorithms, yes, is usually what is being sold directly through them, then third party, such as other airline websites, but then also in that same tier, what is also being sold and or handled at the airports in real time. So that it does, they do look at it, but I can't say all of them adhere to what is being shown on the algorithms, meaning discount carriers, they really don't tend to care about that information, in my opinion. That's my opinion. Uh, Whereas the legacy carriers tend to do so because they are paying more for everything and charging more for everything. Discount carriers is all about the numbers. Let's load this sucker up. I don't care if it's a human being breathing or not. And you know what I'm talking about. It is all about, again, where you're flying, but also, too, what is the airline of choice? Because that will tell you a lot as to what are you paying for in the plane. Are you paying for that bottle of water, or you get bottled water for free? Does your seat recline, or does it just crush down forward? It's all about how you travel, and comfortability will kind of dictate exactly what they're paying attention to when it comes to what people are searching for. Because no matter what, and by the way, searching for right now in 2025, the number one search is adventure travel and or open itinerary travel. And that simply means that people are willing to kind of expand their horizons and not lock themselves into both a date or destination. However, that usually does go for more singles or couples. Obviously, families are going to be a lot more groups specific. So, yes, it would be wise if you're trying to affect that, clear your cookies and your history. But no matter what, when you pop up a screen that you were looking at earlier and it still shows the same ones that your flights you were looking at last, that information then is probably being shared and distributed to the airlines directly, because that's what they want to see, is that you're constantly looking at that. Because when you start hitting those buttons over and over and over, regardless of the site, from your server, I don't want to make assumptions like eye in the sky or AI craziness, but it just kind of bears in mind that someone's paying attention.
Awesome. Thank you.
Ugh, that was a terrible answer. I'm sorry.
Well, it worked.
It worked.
No, I got it. I mean, it answered.
Yeah.
For downtown travel, Myrna, yes, you do need to, when you're registering for downtown travel, you do need to give your bank account information or honestly, I used my Kimbo card 4 years ago when I registered for it. So you do need to put something in there. Um, Ben, do you want to explain how that works? I don't really book a lot through downtown travel.
I forgot how I set it up. I have booked on downtown travel. Downtown does, when you sign up with them, especially on your first few bookings, at least in allotted amounts available. what they'll allow you to book for. And the more you book, the more they will allow you to do so without having payment method, I believe. But the one thing about downtown, though they have not only flights, they also do travel packages, you name it. They don't have much of it. They don't have as big of an inventory per se of airlines, for example, that Expedia TAP or Centrav would. And so, though you might see a great price there, that might not be the best price because you're not seeing everything that's possible. Plus, when you are in downtown, when you choose a selection as far as the outbound flight, for example, on a round trip choice, it's going to pair it with the ones that work in their best interest. And usually it's either partnership, alliance, and or um, availability of said destination, if that makes any sense. So it's a little more complicated downtown. When it comes to pricing, you do have to put in some sort of, I believe, payment method as sort of a security until they recognize you as someone who is a valid or reliable booker.
Yes, I think they only allowed Rochelle to book $1,000 at first and then later up to the limit to 5,000. So yeah, it's the same
Exactly.
thing happened. Yes.
I want to say it's sort of like bigotry, racism of sorts, just because I'm like, yeah, I think you have a picture. Why is she getting to book that? I don't know. But I think it is more so the more you book with them, the easier it is. But still, keep in mind, they don't have every option as far as what is available out there.
So one thing I do want to hit on, there was a question here about booking flights. Um, 95, 98, 99% of the time, commissions are not built in when you're booking flights alone. So if you are booking just flights only, you will need to add a service charge to make, for your work, obviously, that you did. I think like it, what you want to charge them, you can use your Square, your PayPal, whichever one you want. What you want to charge them is up to you. I
Right.
think like domestically, 25 or $35 a flight is fine. Internationally, you can do like 50, 75, 100, depending on how much, I mean, know your worth, you know.
Right. And I saw that thing about one more I said for as far as well, Centrav. Centrav is one of the rare, and by the way, Centrav is a consolidator, which simply means that they consolidate their fares based on their contracts given to them by the airlines, which for them is over 60 different airlines. But with them, no matter whether it's an NDC fare, whether it's a commissionable fare, which you do get a small commission on, consolidated fare, um, published fare, you can add a service fee on Centrav to any booking. The only one that does show it as the same price, as in you won't see two separate charges, is a consolidated fare. And that has a limit as far as how much you can do. Otherwise, there's a percentage additional fee to that. But keep in mind, if you don't want to go through the headache of having a separate fee coming up from whether Square or whatever account, consider using Centrav. It might not be the overall best option, but if you are doing a lot of homework and a lot of flights, you can tack on a service fee on your end. And again, even just on a basic one, they'd still charge you more if it's exceed of $100, I believe, per ticket. But at least you have that option there, and it's one less hassle for you. I believe, yeah, really the only one so far. What
It's Centrav, Leslie, CENTRAV as in Victor.
And for those of you who do sign up or haven't signed up, consider when you do taking their academy, because the Centrav Academy simply will break down obviously how to book flights and how to understand it from their end, but it also will help you learn a lot in regards to the industry terminology, just where to look for stuff, how to book group travel, all that fun stuff that kind of is in one place. I could do all that, but that's great. It's already there. So I would say if anyone is really interested in trying to not only make a little more money, go to Centrav, because at least there you have these training courses that are very helpful for whether you use them on them or not, but for other bookings in the future.
All right, awesome. So, does anybody have any last minute things, last minute questions, last minute?
Rebuttals, complaints.
Well, we have our
And
flight
honestly, can I
guru
just
on
say,
here. What?
yeah, it's also if you have a question or is there something in the flights or booking department for flights that we haven't covered here or that you want to know more of, by all means, let us know because I do this for fun with regards to these whole flight things. But I know that there's some things specifically. I don't mind, and I've done this with a lot of agents already. Just had a one-on-one call because I'm more than happy to time accordingly to explain something or to help walk you through it because I know this is a lot of blah all at once. But hopefully, with this handout, you at least have some guidance as to kind of where to look, how to look at things, keeping in mind that every year does change, every month changes, but more than willing to help if you need it and can't figure it out just yet right now.
Awesome. Yes. Perfect. Okay. I think I got through everybody's questions. If I didn't, let me know. Um, yes. Thank you so much, Ben. You are
Right.
awesome.
Well, we're all awesome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're, you
Thanks
just,
for being our flight guru.
well, we still have to pick a winner.
Oh yeah. Let's pick our winner. Here,
Well,
I'll stop recording so that way we can pick the winner.
so again, the winner is